They spent the past 2 days at facilities for Blue Origin going over preparations, according to Blue Origin's Ariane Cornell. Their tasks included practicing how to get into and out of the New Shepard capsule.
Katy Perry just called herself an astronaut. And no, this isn't a joke or a meme. After flying aboard a Blue Origin rocket, the same mission being clowned all over the internet, she stood in front of cameras and fully embraced the title. And if that already sounds wild, just wait, because what started as a groundbreaking all-women space mission quickly turned into one of the most roasted PR stunts of the year. Let's break it down. Blue Origin, the Jeff Bezos-backed space company, launched a high-profile flight featuring several famous women, including Katy Perry and Gayle King. The marketing around it was intense. Talk shows described it as inspiring. Gayle literally said the mission would encourage more women to become astronauts. But the internet wasn't buying it. On a recent episode of the Valuetainment podcast, multiple hosts questioned that narrative, asking how a suborbital photo op became a symbol of progress. One even pointed out that real astronauts, the kind who've actually died on long missions or spent months in orbit, never got this kind of praise.
This is what pissed me off about Gayle King. She said, this is going to inspire women to be astronauts. Why would you want to do that? So they could go into space and be stranded for 9 months like Sunita Williams and Barry Wilmore? Remember that? Guys, think about this. We just had 2 astronauts, real astronauts, not these fantastic cosmonauts. We had freaking 2 people stranded for 9 months that Biden wasn't going to get because Elon wanted to help. They left their asses up there to die. This is getting way more news than that.
The whole thing started looking less like a space achievement and more like a very expensive influencer campaign. And then came the conspiracies. Online critics started calling the mission fake. A clip from inside the capsule went viral, showing what some believe is a mannequin's hand, not a real person's, resting unnaturally inside the spacecraft.
One photo of a hand, and it's a black female's hand. Tell me it doesn't look like it's a mannequin hand. Can you find that, Rob? Can you find that photo? Just put mannequin hand. It looks so fake inside. Let me see if Rob can find it. Look at that. Zoom in on that. That's a plastic fake hand. What is that? That looks like a freaking, right? It looks like a mannequin.
TikTok users dissected the footage frame by frame. Threads popped up accusing the mission of being pre-filmed or staged. People weren't just skeptical, they were convinced this was all smoke and mirrors. And then there's the tone of the whole thing. The mission was described as empowering, historic, bold. But at the same time, most of the actual coverage focused on selfies inside the capsule, staged photos with the rocket, and Katy Perry posting cryptic captions about feeling the love of the universe. Even casual viewers started asking, wait, isn't this just a 2-minute ride to the edge of space? And yet, somehow, that ride earned Katy Perry the label astronaut. That one word is what broke the internet. Because if you've watched interviews with real astronauts, you know the kind of training, science, and psychological resilience that role demands. You don't just hop on a capsule and become an astronaut, but according to the post-flight interviews, Katy Perry's team didn't get the memo. And that's when Megyn Kelly entered the chat. Because while most people were confused, she was crying laughing. The rocket shape, the media hype, the space bimbo training footage, she went all in. And what she said next had commentators, influencers, and even mission control getting roasted live on air. Megyn Kelly didn't just criticize the Blue Origin mission, she demolished it. During her podcast, Megyn completely lost it while watching coverage of Katy Perry and Gayle King's historic space trip. It started as a commentary, but turned into a full-blown roast session. First, she clowned the idea that riding a rocket for a few minutes suddenly qualifies you as a trailblazer. She pointed out that if these celebrities wanted to be brave, maybe they should start by flying commercial once in a while. You know, with the rest of us. Then came the rocket-shaped jokes. Megyn said the Blue Origin rocket looked like a, well, let's just say it wasn't designed for subtlety. It's literally a flying nipple, she laughed, barely able to get through the sentence.
I love everything about it. I love the fact that they all decided to be part of Jeff Bezos' phallic fantasy, to get in his shaped rocket. Their little spaceship is shaped exactly like a breast with a big nipple at the top, and blast out into, like, quote, space, which really is just the same distance into the sky that we all go. I mean, honestly, they did not go up much further than everybody goes when they fly on Delta.
The segment only got more chaotic from there. She played clips from Mission Control, where the commentators were dramatically narrating the launch like it was the moon landing. One guy literally said, "You're gonna feel the G-forces now," as if they were piloting through an asteroid field. Megyn couldn't stop laughing. They're up there for 5 minutes. You'd think this was Interstellar.
You you have those two morons who are doing the commentary at Mission Control? One of whom is former Fox/CNN, one of whom is ESPN. Sitting there talking about this, again, like it's Apollo 13, like they're in real danger. They could get stuck up there. And as they land, they say, oh, all their training comes down to this.
And then came the line that broke the internet. While talking about the short training required before takeoff, Megyn said what everyone else was thinking. 2 days of training for space bimbos. It wasn't just the phrase, it was the way she said it. Between laughing fits, she mocked how seriously the entire mission was being framed. They did 2 days of training, and then spent half of it filming content. People who weren't even Megyn Kelly fans suddenly found themselves reposting the clip. Because it didn't matter if you liked her politics, this roast was just objectively funny. It captured what millions of people were already thinking, but hadn't said out loud, that this wasn't a space mission. It was a PR stunt in a fancy capsule. Even the most dramatic footage from the launch looked more like an in-flight experience than anything remotely astronaut level. No zero-G maneuvers, no technical tasks, just high fives and head nods as they floated for a few minutes, then came back down. And yet out walked Katy Perry, being introduced in interviews as a real astronaut. But the chaos wasn't over, because right after Megyn Kelly's roast went viral, Katy herself doubled down. In an interview clip that's now making the rounds, she gave one of the weirdest post-launch answers of all time. And even Wendy's got involved. After the mission, Katy Perry was glowing. Not from zero-gravity exposure, but from media buzz. She stepped off the capsule and went straight into interviews. And in one viral moment, the host called her an astronaut and said, "How does it feel?" Katy paused, smiled, and gave one of the weirdest answers possible. "I felt so much love inside of me."
No, you're not the crier of the group.
Feeler of the group.
No, you are not.
I'm crier.
I'm going to tell you something right now. You are officially an astronaut.
Thank you so much.
How do you feel?
I feel super connected to love. So connected to love. I think this experience has shown me you never know how much love is inside of you, like how much love you have to give, and how loved you are until the day you launch.
It was supposed to be heartfelt, inspirational, maybe even deep. But to viewers, it sounded like she just got off a meditation retreat, not a spacecraft. The inner-person exploded. People started comparing her to Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop persona. Commenters said it felt like she was role-playing a NASA job in a high-budget influencer campaign. And then Wendy's, yes, the fast food chain, jumped into the ring. They posted a tweet directly aimed at Katy that read, "Can we send her back? Savage, zero chill," and instantly viral. But the roasting didn't stop with brands. Megyn Kelly followed up by dragging the entire group of women on the flight. She showed a short montage of them, smiling, posing, and praising themselves post-flight, and just tore it apart. It's like watching a red carpet for a 5-minute roller coaster.
The montage of them about them. Let's watch.
Out there, it's dark. It's like death.
And I'm so proud of us. I really am proud of me.
Flowers for me, I believe, are like God's laughter and God's smile. And I brought a daisy because I have so much love for my daughter Daisy, and I have so much love for Mother Earth.
It just says to me, if I can do this, I was telling these guys, I might even now get my ears pierced. I've never gotten my ears pierced because that hurts.
I hope they can see the unity that we modeled and replicate that and understand that we weren't just taking up space, we were making space for the future. Yeah.
Oh my God.
10 out of 10 review.
Even other celebrities weren't impressed. Olivia Wilde took a jab, posting that the billion-dollar Blue Origin mission bought some good memes, I guess. Olivia Munn chimed in too, calling the all-female flight tone-deaf. "There are so many other things in the world right now that matter more," she said.
They're going for 11 minutes. They're going for 11 minutes.
So,
they're going up. I think they're going to float around a little and then come back.
Like Magic Mountain. Like you're just going up
Space Mountain. More appropriately, Space Mountain.
Space Mountain.
And Emily Ratajkowski didn't hold back either, calling the whole thing straight up cringe in a separate video clip.
Space mission this morning. That's end time shit. Like, this is beyond parody. Saying that you care about Mother Earth and it's about Mother Earth and you're going up in a spaceship that is built and paid for by a company that's single-handedly destroying the planet. Look at the state of the world and think about how many resources went into putting these women into space. For what? For what was the marketing there? And then to try to make it like, I'm disgusted, literally. I'm disgusted.
Suddenly, it wasn't just political commentators or the usual internet critics. It was everyone. Celebrities, brands, podcasts, and social media pages all dogpiling the same message. That calling yourself an astronaut after a 10-minute flight is like calling yourself a pilot for booking a window seat on Spirit. To be clear, this wasn't about hating women in space. It was about how tone-deaf the whole thing felt. People respect real astronauts, real missions, real science. What they don't respect is billion-dollar brands pretending a glorified elevator ride is the same thing as walking on the moon. And if Katy thought the criticism would die down with time, she was wrong. Because what came next was a full media shift and a signal that the culture might be done pretending this stuff still lands. At the heart of all this backlash isn't just a space capsule. It's a shift. People are getting tired of Hollywood forcing manufactured milestones and calling them history. Tired of celebrities turning every public moment into a branding exercise. And definitely tired of influencers calling themselves astronauts after a glorified zero-gravity joyride. This wasn't about gender, politics, or even Katy Perry personally. It was about honesty. Because when the internet watched Katy step off that Blue Origin capsule, call herself an astronaut, and talk about feeling universal love, they didn't see a pioneer. They saw a press tour in a spacesuit. And what made it worse? Even her own peers started calling it out. When Olivia Wilde, Olivia Munn, and Emily Ratajkowski all throw shade at the same mission, and Wendy's is out here tweeting, "Send her back," you know the script has flipped. So where does this leave Katy? Still a pop icon, still a megastar, but also a reminder of how quickly the internet can turn when it smells fakery. When you try too hard to sell empowerment, but forget to back it with meaning. The culture's moved on, but Hollywood hasn't caught up. And if this mission proved anything, it's that no amount of buzzwords, capsule footage, or branded montages can replace authenticity. Now the question is, what's next? Because if this is how people are reacting to a space mission, imagine what happens when the next celebrity stunt drops. So, what do you think? Was the Katy Perry astronaut moment an honest celebration, or just another high-budget cringe fest? Drop your take in the comments. We read everyone. And if you thought this was wild, wait till you see what's coming next. It's messy. See you next time.